We've got Brett Ryan from Focus on the Family Australia. Alongside that, another CEO of Focus on the Family New Zealand, Maria Boddington. So firstly, a big old welcome to you guys.
Well, it's a pleasure being with you. And I'll just say for all of those expats out there listening, Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oh, there you go. He's getting that one in.
Yeah, good afternoon, Di. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Well, look, the reason you're joining me today is you've just come back from a marriage retreat weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we had the privilege of giving away a spot for a lucky couple. So firstly, I just want to ask the question. It's an easy one. How did it go?
It went extremely well.
Yeah.
Maria and the team did a fantastic job, and they should be very proud. They put on a very, very good, very slick, well-organised event. And then they had the pleasure of Kate and I sharing. Hopefully it was a pleasure. But then we allowed the God to do only what he can do in people's lives. And all combining made a fantastic event. And we have to say, we saw God intervene and help many of these couples who were in crises and going through a really difficult time with a lot of baggage, leaving with a new sense of hope and a new sense of purpose. So you can't get any better than that, Di.
Yeah. And Maria, from your perspective, any highlights or anything that you'd like to put or add to that?
Oh, it was just a delight to serve New Zealand couples. I think, when you step up in that role and really want to bring marriage to the forefront is a really important thing that we must look after and invest in. It was so heartwarming that they came and they trusted us with their hearts and trusted us with their marriages, that we would equip them and instruct them and lead and guide them in a really beautiful time as a couple. So I was delighted to serve and delighted to see them participate so well. And it was a great privilege to have Brett and Kate, who speak with real confidence. They've seen many things happen in marriages in Australia. So it was good for us to hear that voice of hope and confidence that whilst we can have bad times in our marriage, it's okay, but you will get through, and here are some tools to help you get through that. So,
And it was interesting, that word hope that Maria was sharing.
Yeah.
We ask at the end, and we get them to complete a survey, and we describe what's one word you feel like before the event and what's one word they feel like afterwards. And some of them were disgruntled, some of them were frustrated, some of them were feeling hopeless, depressed, apprehensive, and then they left feeling challenged, which is great. They want to be challenged, but hopeful was often used in their description. But the one I love the most was, other than feeling, depressed and now re-energized, but the one I love the most was they feel empowered and like a superwoman. And I thought, well, you can't get any better than that. And the language that they use encapsulates how they were feeling.
Yeah.
And that for us as a communicator is wonderful. And you can see them being engaged, thinking and processing. Now, as I said, we hit a few buttons. We hit a few things that can hurt, and that's coming to the surface. But then seeing couples who were in that black cloud, if you like, and then walking around the grounds, holding hands and with their arms around each other, laughing, you think from where they were to where they were after a few sessions is extraordinary. Only God can do that. And that's the beautiful thing is about partnering with the Holy Spirit, and we do our part and he does the rest.
yeah.
I want to talk about, because there'll be people listening that perhaps are just feeling really, really challenged in their relationship, that, things do feel pretty bleak. So perhaps could we maybe start with some of the challenges that some couples were facing, and maybe some couples in the past retreats, and then we can obviously move to stories of some hope as well. So, and some tips, which I think everyone likes, right? So,
well, first of all, let's just say it. You are not alone. If you're listening to this and there is chaos and crises or feeling hopelessness, you are not alone. And when you feel alone, that actually furthers your isolation. And you feel like, I'm doing everything I can.
Yeah.
But only if they got their act together, then we'll do well. The thing that most things have is an origin somewhere back in your experiences, what you observed, and we call it the family of origin or family experiences, has a very significant part of how you do life, how you do relationships, how you do communication, how you handle stress, how you handle finances, the whole myriad of things. And then if you haven't had a great role model, you get married and then you're saying, how do you do this?
Yeah.
And the other person's got another experience. And often if we look back and look under the hood, you say, hey, it's something back and I can do some things about that. Your past does not determine your present or your future. You can't use that as your crutch forever, but you can have to do some hard yards. So if you really want to start somewhere, start at looking at the person in the mirror and becoming the best version of yourself. And that takes work. And anything worth doing is going to take effort. But I tell you what, it can't guarantee that relationships will be wonderful. It can't guarantee that everything's going to be rosy because, let's face it, there's no promises that life is going to go really, really well. We're going to go through things, but God said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And I'll be with you through the difficulties, through the challenges. And you lean into God, lean into becoming the best version of yourself, and then you come together and lean into each other and you can get through things. And all the research actually says couples who go through difficulties can come through the other side stronger and healthier and happier as a result of working through those things. So be encouraged that you are not alone, but work on yourself. And that may need to mean you speak to somebody, someone you trust. It may be a counselor or a pastor or someone who's a mentor who's gone ahead of you, and then you can actually unpack those things.
That's what I was going to say, Brett, because sometimes you're what you know. You can't see perhaps the cultural experiences that you've gone through that you kind of just expect every family to have gone through. Sometimes you do need a person to bounce off. Maria, how would you suggest you do that? I mean, is it necessarily the right thing to do that with your marriage partner, or is it good to get an outside perspective?
I love one of the sessions Brett brought to us this analogy that we actually have the privilege of holding our husband or our wife's heart. And I think that, and he had an experience that Brett talked about as a nurse, that he actually had the privilege of holding somebody's heart during surgery. Wow. And I think because he told that story so beautifully, it brought it home very clearly to the marriage participants that I have a responsibility to hold my partner's heart, hold it well. And I think that is actually the attitude of reverence and care that we need to enter into when we're doing self-care. I'm doing it because I'm holding somebody's heart. I'm not doing it because I need to be bigger or better. I'm doing it because I'm holding something very precious and I'm responsible for that. And so when we're motivated by love to change, it is far greater and far more significant because we've still got to hold that heart while we're doing our work of responsibility. Yeah. So I think it's important that our self-reflection is motivated by love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking relationships today and a recent marriage retreat that they both hosted. Guys, highlight. What was a highlight from the weekend?
Oh, there's a number. There are a number, but seeing couples leaving with some directions, some keys. It's hard to encapsulate with one individual story, but I'll leave Maria to tell the one great story. But to see couples going with some extra tools in their toolkit that they can apply, because life is going to throw them some stuff, I can guarantee, almost this week. Right. That they're going to be able to say, hey, we've done this, we've learned some skills, we've learned some strategies. Let's not go back to the patterns of behavior that we got ourselves into all sorts of problems and start afresh. And so having knowledge gives you confidence, and when you have that confidence, you can be more empowered to be able to address some of those issues before it gets out of hand. We talk about being proactive rather than reactive. That's very key. But there's some other wonderful stories, but I'll leave Maria to tell the other one.
All right, Maria. You hit us with it.
Oh, it's just so delightful. And, you know, when you've done an event and people have been stirred and inspired, they come to you so happy and they're saying goodbye to you, which is great. I had this long line of lovely cuddles and affirmations and being thanked. And one couple in particular said, oh, come on, Maria, we've got to have a photo together. And I was like, sure, no problem. No worries. Smile. That's great. oh, do you mind taking a photo of us just together? We'd really like the backdrop, the seascape behind us. I said, no problem. So we moved away from everybody else out into a nice place that was a bit quieter, and the beautiful sea was crashing in the background. And there I am taking their photo, and out he pops a ring and puts it on her shoulder in the photo. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm witnessing a really special moment here.
Yeah.
And I quickly said, okay, and change my view to a video. And I said to her, oh, honey, I think he has something very special for you. And she turns around and just absolutely shrieks with delight as he proposed right in front of me. So they had been together for a number of years. And one thing they felt deeply inspired by the weekend was that it needs to be in a covenant relationship, and they wanted God, and they wanted to be married, and they wanted him in the middle of it. And it was so heartwarming. We're crying together. I'm smiling and laughing. And I got to be part of a very special moment that just as well I turned that camera to video and got
just
it all.
As well.
So, yeah, it was delightful. It was so exciting.
Very, very cool.
Yeah,
it's making me tear up. Honestly, that is just a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was a real privilege. So I'm really inspired that they were that courageous and realised that actually what they needed to do for each other and to love and hold each other's hearts well. So, yeah, that was an absolute treat to witness that. Yeah.
We're talking relationships, we're talking marriage, and we've talked about times where things perhaps have felt a little hopeless, and for many of these couples, they were sort of at that point. What tips, or what are some of the things that you sort of sent them away with so that they can move forward? Now, you talked about self-reflection.
Yep.
I'm sure there were lots of other things that you centred on across the weekend.
Well, recognising, again, back from our family of origin, we all have what we call triggers, and those triggers can cause you to react. It's like your buttons are being pushed. And when you recognize or dig a little deeper, and you mentioned before, it was interesting, you used the expression iceberg. We're only touching the tip of the iceberg. Quite often what we see or what we hear is not what's actually going underneath.
Yeah.
And it's actually, we see, only 20%, but 80% of it is underneath the surface. So we have to do that self-reflection, that audit, to find out, why am I triggered?
Yeah.
It's not just about the toothpaste being left on the bench. Why is it? Is it because I didn't feel like people are caring for me, or if people don't affirm what I'm doing around the house, not showing appreciation. So it's not just the toothpaste, for example, it's the something else. And once we recognize that, and we talk about the relational law of responsibility, talking about, hey, I am responsible, not someone else. They can influence, yes, but I am responsible for my actions, thoughts, beliefs, and my value systems, and not being persuaded by anyone else. Because you can say, he made me, or she said this, and it set me off. But you have control, and you have a choice. So when we do that, then we can actually move forward with a greater assurance that, hey, I don't need to react as badly as I normally do. I've got this short fuse. I need to work on it. I don't want to blame everyone else, because kids do that at a very early age. We do it as adults as well, unfortunately. So that's one tip, just a little bit of looking at why you are reacting the way that you react.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do is in the area of communication, and we do a lot on the communication, heart talk and work talk. How do we do that really well?
I want to know.
And
how do we do this?
Well, the best thing is to use your ears.
Yeah.
I mean, the book of James talks about be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And we're very quick to speak and very slow to listen. And then we can also be very quick to get angry. But if we can put those in that ratio, we've got 2 ears, 1 mouth, let's use it in that proportion, and learn to listen, but not just listening just for the sake of it, because we often just hear, but listening and seeking to understanding what the other person's trying to say, what is their motive, and thinking of the other person in their best light, not in their worst. And we did a sort of analogy, if I was to say to you, and any of your listeners right now, if you look around where you are and you point to something that's red, and you'll look around and you'll find it. The same thing in your relationship. If you look for faults and flaws, you will find it. But if you look at the positive and you look at the things that you love about that other person and dwell upon those rather than what you don't have, look at the things that you do have and being content, then that will give you a sense of, is this such a big deal after all? These little things can make all the difference.
One of my favourite top tips coming out of that session was I need to make the time to ask my husband, does he have time to hear my heart right now? So that I actually ask rather than just go, blurt it all out. And I thought it was really respectful, because if I don't want to be offended because he's not listening to me, then I actually need to be respectful and ask if he has the moment. And it may be he'll say, oh, look, I'm really tired right now. Can you come back to me in an hour and I want to hear your heart? Because I need him to hear it and not, just rush over or be attending to something else or be too tired. And if I'm trusting that he is holding my heart well, he's actually intentionally wanting to do that. But I'm also communicating with him, it's my heart. So it's not a job I need done like milk or for the kids or something like that. It's actually something that concerns me or I really need to share with him. It could be even good news. But I think respectfully, that was one top tip that Brett gave in that session. Make sure you ask first.
Yeah,
Don't just download.
We forget to do that, don't we?
Yeah, I think that was a really good take home for me. I thought, I'm going to apply that. Yeah.
There's lots of tips. I mean, obviously, it's very hard to give it in a short little session like this.
Exactly. I'm like, give them all to me, but no, I realise it's
the
a bit tough.
The fact is, there's so much you can do, but I'd encourage the listeners, if they've got some difficulties right now, it's to actually say, it takes two healthy, capable individuals, and I say capable, being equipped to learn these skills. And they are skills that you can learn and acquire. You can't just blame your past. Oh, I never had that. But there's lots of podcasts, there's resources, and you can turn to Focus on the Family New Zealand to get more resources. And if they don't have it, we'll be able to provide that. We work in unison together to equip yourself to learn how to communicate more effectively and how to handle conflict. I mean, a healthy relationship is not the absence of conflict. It's how you resolve conflict in a God-honoring, healthy way. So just be encouraged. Two healthy individuals wanting and desiring to improve. Now, that doesn't mean that it's guaranteed the other person, but becoming the best version of yourself. This is for everyone. This is not just for married couples. This is for everyone. Becoming the best version of yourself and being content with who you are. And for those who have got a faith, we talk about our identity in Christ. We really need to go like that, because it's not just being someone's husband or someone's wife. We are the sons and daughters of the King. And therefore, if we get that right, our identity, doesn't matter what happens around us, then we can be secure. And as we are secure in that, then other things will flow into place. So our vertical relationship needs to be really positive, and then it helps us love horizontally.
That's so good.
And one of the tips I'd have to say in order to enforce that positive is when Jesus said to us that we need to pray for our enemies. And I'm not saying that your spouse is an enemy or that your work colleague's an enemy, but what happens in our heart when we pray for somebody else is that it does change our heart. So for those of you who are struggling to have good, healthy relationships, please do. It's a top tip. Start praying for them. Ask God for the strength and the grace and pray for them, and your heart will change. You'll have the increased capacity to forgive them where they've hurt you. You'll have increased knowledge about that person, how you can love and serve them better, and how you can hold their heart better. So I would really encourage you to pray for your spouse or your work colleague or your friend or a family member today, and your heart will change.
It's very hard to hold a grudge when you're praying for somebody.
It's very
and remember,
difficult.
sometimes the actions, the words are the first to start, and the feelings will follow.
Correct.
There's still some things that we need to unearth. Any more tips for
Well,
us
there's a
before
lot
we
of
say
things.
goodbye?
There are a lot of things I could say.
All right.
But this is something that everyone can do, and it's not necessarily related to marriage. But it's at the last session we give 4 things that can guarantee to improve the relationship. So I'll give you one of them.
Okay,
And one of them
do it.
is to leave well. Leave well. When you're in any relationship or with your kids or even with your family members or with your spouse, leave on a good note, because you just don't know what's going to happen on that day, because life goes through. So you want to leave on a good way.
If you're heading out the door to get the groceries, if you're heading out the door to go to
Anytime
school,
someone's going to leave,
okay.
leave well. Not just,
Okay.
and you don't want to leave in anger or frustration or hurt. You want to leave with a note that, hey, things are good between us. And that might mean that you have to dig deep, because there may be some frustration, but leave as best you can. And that may include a kiss. And not just a peck on the cheek.
Yeah.
The research would say that a kiss that lasts more than 6 seconds actually releases good hormones, oxytocin and serotonin. It's a bonding agent. So, that kiss, it makes a difference. And another thing is just a hug. A 20-second hug, just an embrace, actually releases the same oxytocin and dopamine, and it binds you together. So in our family, when the boys were little or going into teenagehood, they'd go off to school, and if they left without kissing their mother, she would send them a text or yell out to them saying, "You're going to have a really bad day." So they'd run back and kiss their mother. And then when they were in university, if they didn't kiss her, she would send them a text and say, "Hey, you're going to have a really bad day." I kid you not, they would do a U-turn, come back into the driveway, leave the engine running, run in, kiss their mother because they didn't want to have a bad day. But it may seem a little bit, that's cute, but it does make a difference that you're leaving well.
It feels like there's that physical reaction, right? You talked about the oxytocin levels.
Yeah.
So,
we all crave for skin hunger. We all have that. And it's interesting, on a side note, it's a lot of that. If you know of someone who is alone and you know of someone who's by themselves, reach out to them and give them a hug. It will make their day. And never underestimate the power of touch. And I'm talking about appropriate touch now, just that embrace or holding their hand because I see you. And when we do that in our families, in our marriage, or even those people who many of you might have a single friend and they don't have that interaction. Never underestimate what you can give to them. And so they may be just craving that contact with another human being that I see you and I want to embrace you. It does still release the good hormones. And so that is a little thing that everyone could do today when you're leaving, no matter going to the shops, going to work, going to school, leave and leave well.
I wonder what my teenager's going to say when I just keep hugging him all the time. All right, Mum. Okay.
And even though they might go, that's enough. Deep down, they really love it.
Okay, I like it. Maria, honestly, there's just so much good stuff here. And I really pray that lots of people who needed to hear this conversation have heard it today. But you know what? Focus on the Family is around, and if people want to find some great resources, they can do so, can't they?
Absolutely. They can call us either on the 0800 number or they can just find us on focusonthefamily.org.nz. We're right there and more than happy to continue to serve and do our part here in New Zealand.
Thanks for joining us on Rhema. Now, if you found value in today's content, hit that like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to our channel with the subscribe button. This really helps us to continue to produce more quality content for you. And hey, if you'd like to stay updated and never miss any of our future videos, ring that notification bell as well. Don't forget to follow us on our other socials, which are in the description below. And until then, stay tuned.